The Root Whisperer's Oath. I remember the day my family turned on me as if it were yesterday. A molten sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows on our porch as I excitedly recounted my latest findings. I had spent weeks in the abandoned farmlands, digging into the soil, listening to the whispers of the roots. I was convinced I had stumbled upon a truth that would change everything. But instead of celebration, I was met with derision that cut deeper than any blade. Cursed plant lore? My brother sneered, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed. You're going to disgrace the family with this nonsense. Next, you'll be telling us trees can talk? Laughter erupted from the table. My mother's, my father's. The warmth of their love turned to ice in my veins. I felt the heat of humiliation creep up my neck, but I pressed on, desperate to prove them wrong. You don't understand. There are ancient legends, plants that can control the mind, roots that whisper secrets of the earth. I'm close to something big. Close to losing your mind, you mean? My father shot back, his voice a razor edge of disappointment. That day, I learned the bitter taste of betrayal, not just from my family, but from the very field I had devoted my life to. I was expelled from my botany doctorate for falsifying data on extinct fungi. A cruel act of sabotage by those who feared my obsession. It was a grave mistake, but it became my catalyst. I turned my back on academia and embraced the dark woods of folklore. I vowed to uncover the truths they chose to ignore. Years passed, and I became an occult botanist, a title that made them recoil in laughter. I poured myself into research, mapping cursed territories, documenting every whisper of the roots that called out from the depths of the abandoned fields. My nights were lit by the pale glow of the moon, my heart racing as I discovered plants long thought to be mere myths. Each new finding felt like a thread pulling me deeper into a tapestry woven with dread and wonder. They were right, though. I did lose myself in those woods. I lost friends, respect, and sometimes even hope. But as the world began to tremble beneath the weight of what I unearthed, news reports of strange happenings, missing people, and endless whispers echoing through the trees, I found a dark allure in my new identity. I became a warning, a voice no one wanted to hear yet could not ignore. So when the time came to return home, I did so with a mixture of dread and anticipation. I had been invited to speak at a local conference, and I knew my family would be there, their expressions a blend of reluctant curiosity and concealed scorn. The old house looked the same, paint peeling, shutters hanging askew. I felt like a ghost returning to haunt the living. As I walked through the door, I was met with the usual stares, but something had shifted in the atmosphere. The laughter that once surrounded me felt stifled, replaced by an uneasy silence. You look different, my mother finally mustered. Different? I echoed, my voice low, barely audible over the thumping of my heart. Or enlightened. That evening, I shared the stories of my research, the horrors I had faced, plants that thrived on despair. Roots that whispered secrets like venomous snakes. I spoke of the night I encountered the whispering nightshade, a cursed plant known to devour the will of those who dared to touch it. Its roots tangled with the souls of the lost. I recounted how I had barely escaped its grasp, how I had felt its dark tendrils curling around my mind, attempting to pull me into eternal darkness. The room was tense, the air thick with disbelief and mounting dread. I watched as my family shifted uncomfortably, the laughter of yesteryears evaporating like mist in the morning sun. They thought it was all a joke, a performance. But I could feel the weight of my truth pressing down on them, a palpable fear that began to seep into their very bones. Then it happened. Just as I was about to recount my findings on the cursed hellebore, a sudden gust of wind whipped through the room. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, Shadows twisted and danced along the walls, shadows that shouldn't have existed. I felt a shiver crawl up my spine as the temperature dropped. I could see my breath misting in the air. "Look!" I shouted, pointing at the shadows, my voice rising above the gasps of disbelief. "You mocked me for years, but now you're witnesses to what I've uncovered. This is what you refuse to believe." My family froze, eyes wide with terror, as the shadows coalesced into shapes. The very roots of the plants I had studied seemed to be stretching into our reality, creeping along the walls like living nightmares. I could hear the whispers, words I had memorized, warnings from those who had encountered these cursed beings before. My heart raced as I realized what I had unleashed. "Stop it," my brother shouted, backing away as if the shadows were tangible, as if they could reach out and pull him into the darkness. "This isn't real." But it was real, and in that moment, the mocking laughter of my family turned to desperate cries as they witnessed firsthand the chilling weight of what they had dismissed. They had laughed at the shadows, but now they were the ones who stood in darkness. As the shadows receded, I felt a wave of vindication wash over me. I was no longer the laughingstock, the deluded fool. I had become a harbinger of truth, a testament to the horrors that lay in the forgotten corners of the world. And they, the ones who had once ridiculed me, were now the ones facing the consequences of their disbelief. When the shadows faded, I looked at my family, their faces pale and shaken. "You thought I was mad," I said softly, my voice steady, "but I was only uncovering what you were too afraid to face." And as I turned to leave, the weight of their realization hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the cost of ridicule. I stepped into the night, a world of shadows waiting eagerly for my return, knowing that my journey had only just begun. There was power in what I had embraced, and a dark satisfaction in knowing that I had become a keeper of secrets, forever bound to the whispers of the roots.